Ladies and gentlemen, there is reason to keep living! The current golden child of paleo documentaries, Prehistoric Planet, is coming back with a third season, moving things out of the Mesozoic and into the Pleistocene for the appropriately titled Prehistoric Planet Ice Age. After what felt like an eternity after its announcement, we finally got a trailer which gave us an exciting look into what to expect, including many awesome species, both long lost and more recently extinct. The series is just around the corner, but considering my history with Prehistoric Planet on this channel, I see no reason why I can't get my thoughts out on it now. So enough dilly-dallying, let's talk about my hopes, concerns, and other thoughts about Prehistoric Planet Ice Age. There is a ton of stuff I could go over in this trailer. There's one big thing in particular that I really want to dive into, but there is one thing I want to mention at the very start. It's that I love how diverse the species roster is for this show. Not just that, it seems like there's a huge variety of different locations we'll be heading to as well. Of course, the show is going to highlight a lot of the Ice Age's heavy hitters: mammoths, saber-toothed cats, woolly rhinos, giant ground sloths. Yeah, those guys are freaking shoo-ins, of course we're getting them. But I also really love seeing that a bunch of the lesser knowns of the Pleistocene are getting focus here too. The trailer highlights a lot of creatures such as the Australian megafauna, dwarf elephants, and even more recently extinct species such as the giant moas, elephant birds, and Steller sea cow. That last one in particular got the biggest reaction out of me when watching the trailer for the first time. Like, you put Steller sea cow in Prehistoric Planet? John, bro, I knew I liked you, dude. Come here, bring it in, brother. There's even more than what was shown off in the trailers too. Apple TV had a whole press release on their website that featured several pictures from each episode, with many animals that weren't in the trailers such as short-faced bears, dire wolves, Elasmotherium, Gigantopithecus, terror birds, and everyone's favorite, squirrel. The vast amount of creatures here helps paint an image of the Ice Age that, to me, feels insanely complete and expansive, as opposed to anything that any other documentary has ever done. I think a lot of us are used to seeing the Ice Age as this world that is just vast tundra plastered with mammoths and rhinos, and every now and then you get a little focus on stuff further south, and that's where the saber-toothed cats and the ground sloths are. But with such a vast focus on animals that aren't in the snow, even seeing animals like woolly mammoths in drought-stricken plains, it makes the Ice Age feel a lot more like a lived-in time period than anything that any other documentary has done. I particularly want to focus on a point that I made earlier and focus on the more recently extinct animals as well. The inclusion of animals like moas and Steller sea cow is so exciting to me because of how recent these animals went extinct. Moas went extinct in the 1300s and sea cows went extinct in the 1700s, but they were just as much a part of the Ice Age megafauna as the mammoths and the cats were. There's no reason they should be excluded, and I hope that their inclusion opens the door to even more recently extinct species such as haw seagull, thylacines, aurochs, great auks, quaggas, dodos. The list is countless. I can totally see how a good chunk of these species can fit into the show like a glove, but we'll be saving that for later. The point that should be made here is that the species roster looks incredibly cool, and I'm eager to see how the show will handle all these creatures. Prehistoric Planet Ice Age is piquing my interest mainly because of one thing: the way that the show is structured. Unlike the last two seasons, which dedicated a bulk of their episodes to focusing on one main habitat, and also North America too, I guess, leaving it so that you can watch the episodes in whatever order you want, it seems like in Ice Age, the episodes will be organized in a way where you have to watch them in release order. The format itself isn't entirely going to be ditched. Two of the episodes focusing on deserts and grasslands are seemingly going to be close to the dedicated "we're focusing on the habitat" episodes, but even then, the way that they're written feels distinctly different when compared to how the first two seasons organized their habitat episodes, with their titles being written the way they are and being in line with the title of the second episode, which seems to be a much more broad look at how new lands have opened up for many different Pleistocene creatures. On one hand, I am slightly bummed that we aren't doing the one habitat per episode theme. It really helped to link those first two seasons with the Planet Earth series, which it strives so hard to be like, and in my opinion, it totally succeeded at doing that. But at the same time, I do get why they changed the format up for this. The first two seasons really honed in on the idea that this was set 66 million years ago, at the tail end of the Maastrichtian Age and the Cretaceous.
Planet Earth, 66 million years ago.
However, not every single species shown off actually lived at that point in the Maastrichtian. Velociraptor, Dreadnoughtus, Nanoxaurus, Pachyrhinosaurus, and a handful of others lived a little bit earlier on in the Cretaceous. This doesn't bother me that much. I'm perfectly fine with different species being moved around slightly if it means that they'll get their time in the spotlight. I grew up with a documentary that put Pteranodon a whole 15 million years before it even evolved. I really don't care that much. What I will say is that I think the closer we get to the present, the harder it is for these excuses excuses to be justified. We'd be working with much smaller increments of time, and I think more people would catch on if some animals were out of their time, as opposed to the dinosaurs at the very end of the Cretaceous. I think having the show start around 1 million years ago, as the trailer suggests, and over time move closer and closer to the present, makes for a really fun narrative device. It's very classic Walking With in that regard, where each episode was set in a whole new time with a new cast of animals, though on a much smaller scale this time. Doing this allows for a much wider variety of creatures to be shown. Terror birds were extinct by the time the Ice Age hit its peak, and it does seem like them, as well as other stars of the Great American Interchange, will take center stage in the New Lands episode, and I'm totally fine with that. Again, it adds a much larger variety of creatures to the cast as opposed to just being focused on a certain fixed point in the Ice Age. I mentioned earlier how this was in line with the likes of the Walking With series, and I think that's a very big advantage that this could possibly have over the first 2 seasons. A complaint that I have seen regarding Prehistoric Planet is that it pulls so much from documentaries like Planet Earth and Blue Planet that it's hard for it to feel sincere sometimes, especially when some sequences feel like they're directly copy-pasted from Planet Earth. I don't entirely agree with this criticism myself, but I do understand where people are coming from when they say things like this. I think Ice Age having this sort of serialized storytelling makes it stand out and feel more unique in comparison to not just its competitors, but to the other seasons of this show. It gives it an identity that is purely Prehistoric Planet Ice Age as opposed to Prehistoric Planet Season 3, if that makes any sense. And I think that in particular has me more excited for this season than anything else. The way the final episode, The Big Melt, is described definitely has my interest piqued, talking about how for many creatures of the Ice Age, their world is coming to an end thanks to the changing climate. I don't think this is necessarily going to happen, but my ideal version of this episode would have sequences with animals such as mammoths, scimitar cats, and direwolves, all of which are already confirmed for the episode, be at the beginning before moving into the more recently extinct species, like the elephant birds, stellar sea cows, quagga, great auk, etc. Have the last segment of the episode take place in like the 1500s and show one of these creatures directly interacting with humans. I doubt that this is going to happen, but if The Big Melt were to end on the Wrangell Island mammoths, I think I would. I want this episode in particular to be notably somber, reminding us of a world that in the grand scheme of things we just barely missed out on, with the only way we could possibly get a chance to look at these animals be behind museum glass as opposed to in zoos or out in the wild. Such an episode would be incredible and a perfect way to cap off the whole Ice Age saga in my opinion. I have a feeling that they won't go in this direction, but it would certainly be cool. Moving on from the structure of this show, there is one concern that I have for it, and it's the show's release schedule. Unlike the first 2 seasons of Prehistoric Planet, which were all released in 1 week with each episode airing Monday through Friday, Prehistoric Planet Ice Age will be dropping all of its episodes on November 26, which I think really sucks. As stated before, it really seems like this season is going to have episodes that feel more like one continuous story as opposed to 5 random spotlight episodes that are under the same season banner. And from what it seemed like, that method of dropping each episode over the course of the work week really did help Prehistoric Planet become so successful. Season 1 made into the top 5 most watched TV shows of the week that it aired, and the only reason that it wasn't any higher than that was because it was going up against some of the most popular shows on TV at the time. I definitely think that Prehistoric Planet benefits greatly from this format. Simply speaking, as a viewer, it's fun for everyone to be on the same page when watching a show, even if episodes drop on a daily basis as opposed to the truly ideal weekly basis. People are growing tired of the whole streaming series dropping their shows all at once model, and it really is a shame that Prehistoric Planet is now following in these footsteps. Maybe Apple just wanted to get rid of the show as quickly as possible. The lack of any real promotion for the series until a week ago certainly gives off that impression, and it's a real shame if that's the case because I can tell that this is a crew that loves doing the stuff that they do when it comes to making this show. So I can't think of any other way to show them our appreciation and Apple how much we love the series by watching it officially when it drops. I don't usually like being the guy who says stuff like this, but by all means, if you are able to support Prehistoric Planet Ice Age officially, then please do so. This will no doubt be another excellent installment to one of the greatest series in all of paleo media, and it would be a shame if nothing else comes out of this series because of it. And I think that'll have to wrap it up for this video. There's certainly more I can talk about with Prehistoric Planet Ice Age, but with the series dropping so soon, I may as well save those thoughts for when the actual review comes out. We aren't even 2 weeks away by the time this video drops, and believe me when I say I cannot wait for this thing to release, and I'll be sure to get on my review as soon as I can. But, of course, these were just my thoughts, and I want to know yours. What are some of your hopes, concerns, and other thoughts about Prehistoric Planet Ice Age, and what creatures are you most excited to see or hope to see in this? Be sure to leave those thoughts and more in the comment section down below, and be sure to follow my social medias and join my Discord server with the links in the description below, and if you liked what you saw and want to see more, then be sure to hit that subscribe button. Anyways, I'm Sam the Geigen fan, telling you all to watch Prehistoric Planet Ice Age when it comes out, and reminding you all to wash your hands.